So why did Donald Trump just start this war? Why is this happening? Cui bono, right? Who benefits? It's always useful to start that question in any country.
Indeed.
Who benefits? Who wants Iran bombed off the map and for their own reasons? Who are Iran's rivals and enemies? Perennially, it's the Gulf Arab states, countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. You know, Qatar, the country that just gave Donald Trump a really, really nice $400 million plane, really a gilded flying palace for his own use, both during his presidency and after. Trump plans to take that plane with him and keep using it after he leaves office, if he ever leaves office. And you remember the United Arab Emirates, famous for recently structuring a totally pointless crypto financial transaction so that $2 billion of it would be stuffed into the Trump family's otherwise worthless brand new crypto financial firm. And of course, you remember the Saudis, who stuffed another $2 billion into the pockets of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, just as Trump's first term in office came to a close. You might remember enough people were alarmed about that when it happened that the Trump folks actually sort of bothered to come up with an excuse for what made that okay. They said, don't worry, Jared will never again work for the U.S. government. He's never coming back to Washington. So it's okay that he's taken all this money from the Saudis now. We will never have to worry about having somebody involved in U.S. policy who has also just been given billions of dollars by Saudi Arabia, apparently for no reason. Well, that was the explanation when he took all that money from the Saudis at the end of Trump's first term. And now today, who has been leading the negotiations on behalf of the United States government with Iran before we just started this war with them today? I mean, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was in St. Kitts this week. It wasn't him. No, it was Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, recently paid billions of dollars by Iran's chief rival, and nevertheless sitting there alongside Trump's tiny real estate friend, Steve Witkoff, who has sought recently to improve his considerable family fortunes by going to Qatar to seek money from its sovereign wealth fund.
I need people to understand just how sinister Rachel Maddow is and the so-called liberal media, because they don't lie the way that the right lies. Like how the right wing and Sean Hannity and all those Fox News and Newsmax clowns will get on TV and literally tell the most absurd levels of 1984 lying to your face that are almost comical. That is not how they lie, because liberals are generally smarter than that. They lie often by obfuscation and omission. Nothing Rachel Maddow said in that almost 3-minute clip where one country was conspicuously missing from the conversation was untrue. Everything she said there was true, but she left out something quite noticeable. She had plenty to say about Jared Kushner and his corruption with the Saudis, which is absolutely true. But you know what she left out? The fact that he's a radical, rabid Zionist who is personal friends with Benjamin Netanyahu, who also has personal and financial ties to Israel. What are we doing here? The fact that she left Israel out of this conversation is diabolical. Aside all of Jared Kushner's financial ties, because she's talking about financial ties here to the state of Israel. She didn't think that it was important to mention the fact that he said this in 2024.
Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable to, if people would focus on kind of building up, livelihoods. You think about all the money that's gone into this tunnel network and into all the munitions, if that would have gone into education or innovation, what could have been done? And so I think that it's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. But I don't think that Israel has stated that they don't want the people to move back there afterward. The thing that I would try to do if I was Israel right now is I would just bulldoze something in the Negev. I would try to move people in there. I know that won't be the popular thing to do, but I think that that's a better option to do so you can go in and finish the job.
Yeah, see, Maddow, I noticed that when talking about all the ways that Jared Kushner is corrupt and how he's going to benefit, it didn't mention how he openly said that the Palestinians should be pushed into the Negev desert and not allowed back in because, in his words, Gaza has very valuable waterfront property. Have you ever seen those gorgeous beaches? Have you not seen all the beautiful waterfront properties that these vulture ghouls want to build condos on?
But also there are real fears on the part of Arabs, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of them, who think once Gazans leave Gaza, Netanyahu's never going to let them back in. Maybe, but I'm not sure there's much left of Gaza at this point. So
weird that Rachel Maddow didn't mention that. Didn't mention that this demonic addict doll was actually and openly talks like this. Here was him and Steve Witkoff, the people that are actually supposedly in charge of the peace negotiations and are on the board of peace for Gaza, openly talking about that for over 2 years they have had these plans for Gaza. 2 years.
Who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
So there are plans already.
We have plans already. We have a master plan already. And by the way, and Jared's been pushing this, and we're working together.
See, this is before their dystopian hellscape nightmare official plan for what they want to do to Gaza had come out. So Jared Kushner's looking at him like, whoa, you weren't supposed to say that yet. There are clip after clip after clip after clip of them literally saying what their plans are. Not to mention the fact that Jared Kushner is on the board of peace and is one of the people driving the dystopian hellscape plantation plan for the Palestinians in Gaza. And yet, Rachel Maddow has nothing to say about that, about the fact that the president's corrupt son-in-law is sitting on this board of peace and had an integral part in creating this new Gaza colonial hellscape for the Palestinians when they're going to be living as new slaves, and how he himself and his family will personally profit from this, how Trump will personally profit from this, and their other real estate ghoul friends like Steve Witkoff. But Rachel Maddow, Miss Follow the Money, Miss I love to get to the bottom of things, I'm Rachel Maddow, I look in every single corner, Miss Rachel, I'm very pensive and I really want to know what the real story is, Maddow, has nothing to say about those connections. You don't think that's a little sus? I think it's a little sus. And it's actually incredibly evil. You know why? Because there are a lot of well-meaning libs that might have woken up to all of this Israeli connection had she not been spending so much time trying to muddy the waters so you don't. And the question is why? Why did Rachel Maddow spend so many years trying to divert people's attention with Russiagate and is now trying to spend her time to divert people's attention with Gulf states, but will not talk about the Israel connection? She does not want to talk about it. And again, that doesn't mean that there aren't Gulf state connections, but she's leaving Israel out. Why? Jared Kushner and his family have been personal friends with Netanyahu for decades. Netanyahu has even stayed at his family home, but you're not going to mention that? What's embarrassing is that even the Zionist rag, The Guardian, was bringing up the enormous conflicts of interest at the center of Jared Kushner's Gaza ceasefire deal. But Rachel Maddow, Miss Investigator Extraordinaire, can't put that together. I thought you were following the money, Queen. And the problem is, she has a lot of credibility with people. That is the problem. I know there are people that be like, well, who watches mainstream media anyway anymore? First of all, a lot of older people who vote. Second of all, a lot of libs still love Rachel Maddow. She still has a lot of credibility and clout with liberals. How the fuck are they ever going to learn what's actually happening if this is who they're listening to? This is wicked. This is evil. She knows exactly what she's doing. I don't know what her personal ties to the Israeli regime are or what her conflicts of interest are, but what I do know is this. There is absolutely zero innocent explanation for Rachel Maddow, for somebody as educated as her, as knowledgeable as her, who has been doing this job as long as someone like her, should be talking about what is going on and the conflicts of interest between the Kushner family, the Trump family in the Middle East, without mentioning that giant elephant in the room, Israel. And since this propagandist won't actually tell you the Q bono or whatever the fuck, follow the money, allow me to let Jeremy Scahill from Dropsite News explain what the plan is actually for Gaza and how Jared Kushner, his whole family, Trump, Steve Witkoff, and all of the other Zionists and Israel will benefit once Iran is out of the way and they can implement their new Gaza plan.
Palestinians are being told that they must completely surrender, not just Kalashnikovs and other weapons that they would use to defend themselves against Israeli occupation, but the very cause of Palestinian liberation or self-determination. And what Palestinians in Gaza are being faced with is you either fully bend the knee and accept a colonial apartheid regime as your overseer, that you accept a new reality as dystopian plantation workers on Jared Kushner's real estate project, or we're going to kill you. That is what's being said here. And so the U.S. has plans to build a huge military base there for their international occupation force. The Israelis are in control of nearly 60% of Gaza in the east of the Strip. They don't seem to have any intent of leaving. You have a re-education program that Israel's foreign minister spoke of at this so-called Board of Peace meeting yesterday, and said that it begins with disarmament and demilitarization and then de-radicalization. So if you're a Palestinian family, what they're saying to you is your children need to be raised to accept that Zionism is going to dominate their lives now, that colonial apartheid regime is going to dominate your lives now, and if you dare think otherwise, we erase you from the earth. They still very well may try to mass remove Palestinians. But it does seem that the plan right now is to turn them into the plantation workers for Jared Kushner's real estate plans moving forward, while you have Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority rewriting the Palestinian Constitution alongside France and other Western powers to try to ban any Palestinians that don't accept the Oslo Accords, don't accept Israeli colonialism, from ever running for office. So what they want to do is put in this Palestinian Technocratic Committee in Gaza and force them to essentially be like Mahmoud Abbas, where you're the mayors of a large prison camp run by the United States and Israel, and the residents of this prison camp are just keeping the land until Israeli settlers can come in and take it over. That's what this border piece is entirely about.
Excellent breakdown by Jeremy Scahill from Dropside News. This is why it's so important that you follow independent news sources. You are not going to get the truth from the mainstream media. You are not going to get the truth from corporate media. You're not going to get the truth from Larry Ellison and Barry Weiss's media. And you would be mistaken if you think that Rachel Maddow or any of the so-called liberals over on MS Now or whatever the fuck are going to tell you the truth. Because they, just like Maddow and everybody else on MS Now and the liberal media, are going to lie to you and manufacture consent for the genocide in Gaza, for war with Iran, for the ruling class, for the military-industrial complex. They just do it in different ways than the right. That is why it is so important that you follow independent creators, independent outlets. Make sure you are following creators that are actually telling the truth about what's going on and are independent and not bought off by the empire. Because you're telling me Rachel Maddow didn't know this? That breakdown that Jeremy Scahill just gave, that's absolutely correct. You're telling me she didn't know that? She knows. When I saw this, the slides for the new Gaza, that's the Gaza Strip beachfront that they're planning on building all these properties on, that sent chills down my spine. I don't know how you look at that. And it doesn't make you sick. I don't know. They literally want to build this on the graves of all the Palestinians that they've massacred. And it's looking like if they don't successfully push all of the Palestinians out of there, they want to turn it into a technocratic slave plantation where the Palestinians that happen to survive the genocide can be the workers.